Hello, everybody. Oh, so time to talk about Reckoner. It's my understanding that Reckoner is in the pool this season, and yeah, a lot of people have not played this map yet. They started playing sixes after it was taken out last time. And I haven't seen a ton of really definitive resources on the map. Although I had imagined that other regions like EU or Ozfortress might have better resources on it, or at least more knowledge about the map than I will. But I've already been asked a handful of times to talk about this map or inquiring about it, so I figured I'd just give a primer, right? So fair warning that my experience on this map is pretty limited. I have taken the map seriously and played serious matches on it, but I still just don't have the raw experience and time and number of games on this map that many others in other regions have. So yeah, keep that in mind. That being said, let's get started. And I've already talked about the rollout and everything for the demo stuff, and I honestly don't know the soldier rollouts necessarily. I would imagine, we'll start with where the combo rolls out. And the combo is going to roll out through the callout. Oh, we start off with callouts, don't we? It's been a while since I've recorded a coast to coast. My apologies. Yeah, let's start with the callouts. So, for starters, let's just start on last. So there's not very many specific callouts on last. A lot of it is just contextual and location based, like top right or main or left. Of course, this is lobby. This is last. You have the point. And with that, it's pretty much just all direction and context. If someone is over here, then they're playing top right versus someone over here. If you're attacking, you're playing right side. If you're defending, that's left side. All that normal stuff. Packs you can call out as the pack. This here is a shutter, so we call it shutter. This is usually called dungeon. I have seen it called dungeon. That's what I call it. This here is bats, and this is one of the smallest batses that we have. And this is called rollout. You got a forward spawn here. You got a forklift here, so it's forklift. You have a shed here, so it's shed. You have a point here, so it's point. Right? All pretty straightforward stuff. Now this region, sometimes these callouts are kind of interchanged. They're never like, people rarely call them the same thing, but sometimes this might be called underpass and this might be called dungeon or something. I call this underpass and I call this dungeon. I think that makes a lot of sense. What else? Well, the connectors to mid are going to be underpass, this region here, which gets called cargo, because there's a lot of boxes in it. And then the other connection to mid is this area, which gets called toxic. I have heard it called bamboo in the past and have called it bamboo in the past, but I think the most commonly used call out nowadays is toxic for this region, right? Anything else here? Not really. So let's go to mid. So on mid, you have the bridge, you have a shed on both sides, you have a crate on both sides, and under point, of course. Other than that, it's mostly just directional, at least from callouts I'm familiar with. Now there are like little hiding spots. I don't know if there's a hiding spot here. I don't think there's one up here anymore. It could just be higher than I'm experiencing, or maybe there's like a specific way to get into it that I'm failing at. Yeah, mostly just directional from there on out, like right side, left side, and then of course all the doors that lead to toxic, cargo, and underpass. So that's probably it for the callouts, huh? Okay, so for the rollout, if the callouts didn't give you any indication, most teams will roll out through rollout and then come cargo. And from here, you have all this. Now you can roll out your team underpass and play an aggressive mid, but we'll talk about that when we get to the mids. As far as soldier rollouts, I really am not too sure. I mean, Pocket is going to be rolling out with the combo, of course, but Roamer can probably roll out Toxic, can probably roll out Underpass, can probably mix it up. So yeah, let's talk about the mid fight. So the kind of standard mid is where you just play your side, and you're going to be playing for spam, you're going to be playing for positioning, all the normal stuff you do on a mid. This is like a nice place for demos to stand at, just this kind of general region. And you're just looking for damage on players. You can be shooting their crates, you can be shooting shed, you can be shooting behind crates and shed and hitting people back there. I go into a lot more detail about it for the demo specific one, so check that out if you're interested. For other classes, I mean, this is not a terrible place for scouts to stand either. Scouts will also like to stand on the crate. This is also a decent spot for soldiers to stand, and just wherever. Now, as far as high bomb spots go, I mean, any of these walls can be high bombed off of, including these. There's actually, like, clipping on these all the way up, so they're basically just big triangular pillars, which can be nice to bomb off of. And basically the pace of this kind of mid is you're looking to aggress across point primarily. So if you're playing the double bomb, then you're playing to aggress across point with the bombs. And it's just a matter of finding that timing for when you want to bomb or if you want to bomb. But yeah, very versatile mid. You can kind of react to anything. That being said, the other team might do other things. So they might try and push your right side. And in a case like this, I am a fan of taking bridge, and you want your players on crate to be getting more aggressive here and trying to take advantage of the fact that they are now on the low ground in a vulnerable position. Might be worth bombing them as well when they're down here, and essentially just taking that much better positioning with which to you know, just wipe them. Yeah, and then the other team might be playing to try and play your side and walk up left, in which case, you know, your demo is trying to deny the walk up. If you can get players, like height control on this crate is really what's going to win or lose you the mid, because if they can get up here, then you are just going to be annihilated. But if you can get up here, then they're going to be annihilated. So focus a lot of efforts on maintaining that crate and that high ground control in general. What else? Well, you can play that aggressive right side mid when you roll out underpass. And again, same thing applies. You're looking to control this high ground and you are looking to walk up, right? You would like to be taking this positioning. And this is a mid where it's going to be over pretty quickly because you're just planning to kind of immediately bomb and walk up. Similar to how you would on a gully wash mid when you're playing the other team's side. Now, you can push left. I'm not a huge fan of it because it is, again, low ground. And I think if the other team takes bridge, then unless your demo can really, really, really spam them out well, it's going to be a little tough to deal with versus, you know, why not just aggress across bridge if you're going to aggress into the other team. But those are the main options for mid. And now, of course, Pocket Scout, you're going to want to be on height, ready to deny bombs. And yeah, just getting as good positioning as you can. So I wouldn't be staying on, what is this thing called? Just staying on the crate if, you know, they're trying to push right side, because then you can equally deny bombs as well from here while also putting a lot of better pressure on the enemy team. As far as flank scout goes, you have a lot of options. I mean, you can be playing high ground to deny bombs. You can be playing for action under the point, maybe even. All sorts of different things. Pocket Soldier and Roamer, again, you have options. I mean, for Pocket Soldier especially, you're mostly just going to be playing for spam and then a bomb, as you would on many mids. Roamer, you can be doing that, but you also have some options for getting behind. So I don't know the specific rollout itself, but you can be getting into underpass quite quickly. And then from here, you have just any number of options you can do. I mean, for starters, you could literally just be rebombing from underpass and even like high bombing off of this wall, which is something you can do. Or you can keep going behind and then re-emerge behind the enemy team from Toxic, and that's going to be very powerful. Likewise, you could be continuing to go behind and re-emerge from Cargo, which, again, can be very powerful. Likewise, you can just come Cargo itself and then be playing to split attention, stuff like that. So a lot of versatility there with how you play that. I suppose going Cargo is something a Pocket could do as well. Just soldier stuff. Soldiers getting behind is an option that you can consider on this mid. Yeah, that's pretty much all the classes, at least covered briefly. So now let's go back to last and go coast to coast here. So on last, usually you're playing back, well, disad last, you're usually playing back right and playing to kite through spawn. It's very rare that this is actually a push that the enemy combo can cross in an Uber. So oftentimes if they're using top right, you're expecting them to stay right and you're going to be kiting left. But of course, you know, vision from soldiers and comms from soldiers and players that actually see what's going on is really important for informing you about where to come out, because this is a very long kite. It's a long walk between those shutters. And during all that time, the other team can be pressuring point, trying to kill your soldiers, doing all sorts of things. So you want to make sure that you don't waste time trying to half kite and then you find out that you actually need to go the other way. Yeah, something to consider. As far as guns go, and you always want to have a gun up in disad if you have the time to. Outside of a spawn shutter is totally fine. Either side. And actually left side is quite nice if your combo is playing right, just to kind of split the other team's attention. So a gun like here is, you know, right outside spawn, easy to build, and still quite serviceable. Another really decent gun spot is actually in this corner. Because a lot of the time a demo might bomb past and be unable to get reflashed and might actually just die to the gun. It can be, I mean, it's hidden for the other team when they're peeking top left and pushing it, so it's something that they're going to have to react to on the fly. It can be quite useful. But again, with a gun, you're just looking to waste as much time with the Uber as possible, make it less likely that they can cross, and just buy yourselves time to actually kite the Uber and get in a position to deny point before they can start really pressuring it hard, right? If you don't have time to build a gun, then you should have a heavy, and you know, your heavy shouldn't be playing to die with the Uber. They should, again, be looking to waste time with the Uber and live. You definitely want a heavy post if you can afford it, especially like if the gun goes down, your NG can just switch to heavy, all sorts of things. Yeah, soldiers are going to be playing on doors to make sure that you can, you know, get a force as they're entering, and then your soldiers are going to primarily be focused on just jumping around, staying alive first and foremost, but healthy secondarily, because you don't want your soldiers stuck in spawn resupplying while they're pressuring point, because again, when it comes to holding last, the first line of defense are stickies on the point, which should always be trapped on point on disad. That's the first line of defense, and then your second and third lines of defense are your soldier bombs. And it's important for your soldiers to communicate whether, well, it's usually a good idea to have kind of a default first soldier and second, and they can communicate between themselves for if that needs to switch up, or if someone can't do whatever, someone's resupping, whatever. But you want to have a soldier available to bomb the point and either kill the guy on it, or pressure the guy off of it with damage, or just bomb in and trade with that guy, is still valuable for stalling. And again, disad last, your main job is stalling, because the longer that fight goes on, not only do you guys have the resupply advantage, whereas they can't heal off that damage as quickly, but also you have the spawner advantage, because if you get a spawner and they get a spawner, their spawner has to roll out versus your spawner is already in the fray, right? So you're just looking to waste time and stall, essentially. The longer the fight goes on, the better for you guys. So yeah, soldiers want to be staying healthy so that they can adequately deny the point. And then, again, just fundamental stuff. Your combo wants to establish positioning on a side, whether that be right side or left side, is not so much up to you as it is up to where the other team ends their Uber. You basically want to be taking positioning and playing the side that is opposite of where their combo is ending. You don't want to try and walk out of spawn and just take a fight against the demo that's fully buffed and ready to nuke you all. you want to get out on the opposite side. So yeah, that's disadd last. It's whatever. Let's talk evens on last. So as far as evens on last goes, this one's a little tricky actually. And let's go. Oh, I have Gunslinger on both loadouts. So every time it's evens on last, you want to have a gun up, no matter what. There are cases where you might want to have a heavy first if you're expecting a sack before you can properly build the gun. But, you know, in that first counter sack, when you have the time, you want to build that gun. So gun spots are a little strange because I've seen a lot of variations. Because a gun on, like, the point, for instance, is going to be quite decent at denying space. Basically, what you're looking for a gun is to watch some amounts of, like, watch some doors potentially, but primarily to juggle away a sack. And something like this on point is going to be quite effective at that. However, a lot of these gun spots are quite spammable. So you see a lot of different positionings. You see like guns even here sometimes. Big one is actually a gun here. And what this is good at is it's going to knock away pretty much any sacks coming from main or right side, which are the main doors you're expecting a player to just fly through, particularly main. It's just going to pin them against the wall or knock them away from your med. And yeah, the trouble with all of these is, you know, with geometry like this and all sorts of things, it's not too difficult to be spamming these guns, especially like a demo with arced projectiles. So a gun on point, for instance, if the enemy team is able to take any amount of space through 5, then a demo can just be spamming stickies and pipes over this and taking out the gun. So that's a predicament. And I think that honestly mixing up the gun spot for all sorts of different areas in this kind of central region is not a terrible idea to do. You just don't want to be, you know, moving the gun while they're sacking and have the gun not be up. That's really important. Outside of that, I mean, just a dispenser for your team is always nice. And the med positioning is very important because where your gun is positioned is going to affect where your med is positioned. Because a lot of the time you might see a hold that's not so central and actually has a gun like top right, for instance. And something like this, although I did mention that as a potential disadd gun, could still function in denying a sack through main or something. But in a case like this, you would definitely want your med more right-sided, because if, for instance, your med was central and that gun was there, then a sack through main is not going to get knocked away from your med, and in some cases might get knocked into your med. And on the flip side, a gun that's here, and a medic that's over here, well, if a player comes through main, that gun is going to pin them against this wall right next to your medic. So it's important to position your med based on, you know, what kind of hold you're going for and have your gun follow suit. So if you want that central gun that is going to deny any type of sack or something, then you want a very central med that's just protected from a lot of threats. So yeah, gun positioning is important with med positioning. So with that central gun, you're going to want a central combo in general, so central demo and central medic. And your demo is just going to play to rotate to whatever door the other team's trying to pressure from, and just spam that out. And then, of course, you're going to have a soldier on either door. And just playing the spam in that door. Now, of course, you're not going to be able to deny peeks into this door the same way that you would in the kind of right side hold I was showing with the right side gun, right side medic. It would be a right side demo as well. You're not going to have as much of a lock on this door, so they might even be able to take a little bit of space through it. But that's usually fine because, again, when they're pressuring that, your demo will adequately be able to spam this out by rotating. So, and then, of course, you'd have a soldier on the left side as well. And in a lot of cases, you can actually, like, this is a very open door, all things considered, at least very open by like last standards. So this is easy to bomb into and out of, which is worth considering for maybe a fast counter sack, just instantly bombing in before they can even leave lobby. Might be able to get some value with that. So yeah. What else? What else? So with the engineer, I think that this is a hold that doesn't require a sniper necessarily, but is just so much better with a sniper because these sight lines are kind of ridiculous. The fact that you kind of just can't peek top left or right side if there's a sniper on either side, plus the fact that the sniper's already like positioned towards spawn, plus the fact that the sniper's not really exposed to any other angles and only has to focus on this. And honestly, like same thing applies here. It just makes sniping or trying to pressure into this last against the sniper way more difficult because you just can't peek doors the same way. And a lot of the time you're going to have to identify where the sniper's at and then like quickly pressure the other thing before you can rotate or something like that. It just makes it a huge pain. Part of the reason why sniper's such an awful class to deal with in sixes, but you know, it's such a useful defensive asset here that you probably should be running one. So yeah, that's kind of what the hold looks like. Just soldiers and demo are playing the spam and the doors dynamically. You just want your gun to be assisting your medic. I think the central hold is probably better, more robust. And yeah. So this is a last that players will snipe into because, again, there's some crazy sight lines that you can get. And regardless, you don't really play it that much differently if you're playing central. It's kind of inherently anti-sniper. I suppose you have to watch out for this angle. If your medic was holding too close to this wall, they're vulnerable to that. But other than that, it's really not too bad other than some like crazy hero shot shenanigans. But yeah, just anti-sniper stuff in general comes into play of your soldiers or your projectile classes in general, just being very dynamic with their spam, just making sure they're on top of all the doors, and trying to avoid getting sniped themselves. And that's regardless of whether you have the sniper or not. But of course, you can just win the SVS, but it's inherently kind of coin flippy. If you just lose the SVS, then you should still be able to stave off the sniper until your guy spawns again, as long as you're good about the spam. Okay, so that's sniper. What else? I don't think there's anything else about defending this last on evens, and that's for when you're expecting the sack. As far as counter sack goes, typically combo pressuring bats is usually best. Shutter's pretty difficult to pressure because it can just be carpeted out by the demo. And as far as counter sacking goes, for a roamer, you can just do the fast counter sack into lobby. Totally viable. For something a little more slower with a little more pressure, then something like underpass can be quite nice. Because you're expecting them to kind of be positioned near point. You can maybe do something here, like a high bomb from rollout is a potential, I suppose. Yeah, those are probably the main three ways I can think of. But again, I'm not a roamer player, so that's just a primer, I guess. You can, I'm sure, get more creative than me with regards to that. Okay, now let's talk about second. So disadd on second, you can either play to leave bats as a combo or play to leave shutter. Both are perfectly fine. Bats, you get better spam, or your demo gets better spam on cargo, versus shutter, your demo gets better spam toxic. It really is up to you and what you want to do. I would just suggest as a combo, trying to be in the same place typically. Where would flank be during this? I mean, flank is really just on the opposite side, mostly. Getting deeper spots is a decent idea for those classes that like spotting. So you have a better idea if someone's coming cargo, if someone wants to spot kind of from forwards. And they can also spot underpass from up here as well. And then, you know, you can potentially, I don't know where you would spot toxic from, actually. You might just be playing on the shed here, like a soldier or something, playing to jump away. Just stuff like that. Yeah. Now, let's talk about evens on 2. So, typically the default for evens is playing combo near forklift, primarily stacking towards cargo, and then the flank is watching toxic. And actually, flank scout could probably be kind of in between, ready to deny a bomb from either. In addition to combo scout, because Flying Scout's not really assisting in holding the door so well. Plus, this is just such an easy door to hold that a roamer can usually do a pretty good job of containing it long enough for a rotate to come in, which is the next part. As a demo and combo in general, you tend to want to rotate towards where the pressure is coming from. So if the combo moves over to Toxic to pressure, then yeah, you want to rotate over to point to spam this out and contain that. And then your flank would then go watch Cargo and Underpass, because of course they're kind of, you can watch both at the same time. It's very easy to spot Underpass from here. And I suppose from Forklift as well, you can be spotting Underpass while still being on good high ground if you're a scout, for instance. So yeah, pretty straightforward. You're just playing to have your combo meet where the other combo is trying to pressure and just deny them from getting through, while also watching out for the sacks. So let's talk about pushing into mid. I did go into more detail for demo stuff here, but I'll just be brief, basically. As far as dry pushes go, basically every door is viable. Underpass is probably the worst for a dry push, because it is just low ground, and it's kind of in a weird, awkward spot where your intuitive kind of routing would be up their side, but then there's going to be a lot of spam. So you're not expecting to dry push this so often, but it can be done. And you could theoretically reroute left and then walk up left or something, but then why wouldn't you just be pushing through Cargo, right? Next thing is Cargo. This is a decent enough area to dry push through. Just gives you, acceptable vision. It's pretty far away, and you can just establish good positioning with which you then take the point and lock them out. Toxic is probably the best dry push area because not only do you have a ton of vision, but it's just very far away, and you get to really take your time with things. That being said, anytime you dry push any point, there are 3 very relevant threats. First one being traps. Doorways are often trapped, so you have to clear those. And second is soldier bombs, and pretty much any time a soldier could just be playing to bomb off a timing, so you have to as a pocket scout always be making sure you're looking up, spotting traps, doing whatever. And third are snipers, and this is a very long sniper sight line. I don't believe the sniper will be able to see you until you walk up to bridge, but just something to keep in mind. And I should mention as well, pretty much any time you dry push any point in the game, this is not specific to Reckoner, the order does matter. Usually you want your pocket soldier getting through first, making that space, and their job is to first and foremost bomb anyone who is way too close to the door, preventing your team from being able to get through, like a demo or something. And even just bombing a demo and trading is totally valuable. Second is to identify any relevant threats like traps or bombs if they can. And third, I suppose, is like if the other team, like the entire team, is just way too forward and caught to an Uber, then that pocket soldier can by all means tell your combo to just use and try and catch them. But yeah, after that, your pocket scout wants to get through, and they do a much more thorough job of clearing traps. And they're also on the lookout for soldier bombs. But once that's taken care of and the door isn't trapped, then your demo and medic can get through. And then, of course, your demo starts locking out the doors or spamming people out who might still be in, forcing them to leave, and then trapping out the doors so that you now have secured your newfound space. So that's just dry pushes 101, and that's going to apply to every point, whether I mention it or not. There are some like weird exceptions about how the order goes, because sometimes your pocket soldier might be doing other things or whatever, but by and large, that's just the go-to dry push order. Okay, so now that you've pushed mid, let's talk disad on mid. Toxic is usually a good go-to to leave because you just have so much vision for the entire time, and it's pretty safe. That being said, it is a long way from the doorway to mid to the actual exit itself. So if there is a very aggressive Uber, then they might be able to catch you, which is just something to look out for. Cargo is another option for leaving on disad. These are both, pretty interchangeable in my opinion. I'm not sure what unique merits one have over the other, so you can just do whatever you prefer. As long as no one's getting caught in disad and you're able to set up onto properly, then I don't think it really matters that much. Yeah, I will say on this map, flank shoving in general is very potent. And I start mentioning this on mid because that's something you're going to see more often into last and into second for the other team. Because second and last cap faster than mid does. Because unlike a lot of maps where you have, you know, if we consider this like, it's a good example I can think of. So typically with 5CP map construction, you have a flank route, you have a choke point, and then you have an accessory route that's kind of attached to the choke point, but kind of separate. So classic example of process, you have IT, you have choke, and then you have the choke accessory, which is sewer. On Sunshine, you have valley, you have choke, and then you have the choke accessory, which would be cafe. So if we think of this as like a Sunshine Valley, and we think of this as like a choke, I guess that's also a bit of a choke. It'd be a choke to just walk through this on a dry push though, because it's so tiny. Then which of these, like these cargo and underpass are actually pretty separated, and there's just a lot of room to flank around in both. So flank shoving in general can be quite potent. I'm also realizing something I forgot about pushing into mid was you don't only dry push, you can pop through. Popping through Toxic is not great because you're just so far back. The only time I'm really ever popping while trying to push Toxic is if we, you know, approach it looking to dry push and the other team's caught, in which case we see the opportunity to use our Uber and use it. Cargo, you can pop through as well. I prefer popping through this door, however, because it's a little bit further in, easier to catch people. You do have to watch out as a demo that you're not like over bombing and getting caught, because it is a bit of a walk for your medic and scout to catch up to you. And then underpass I think is much better as a pop through door than a dry push door. It's just very intuitive to bomb over to their side, walk up to their side, and then, you know, just try and catch people on the exits or something. So yeah, that's popping through into mid. And we were on the topic, we were talking about mid, right, flank shoves. Yeah, flank activity can be quite very nice. It can be much easier to get behind on Reckoner than it can be on other maps. So that's something to think about, and maybe a skill to refine on this map, because you can get a lot of value in back caps and behind plays. Whether that be a scout getting behind to cap or a soldier getting behind to rebomb from behind and get a force or something like that. So yeah. And we were talking about disad mid. Let's talk about evens on mid. So for evens on mid, as far as pressuring a sat goes, you have some options. So you can be pressuring Toxic. And this is pretty difficult to pressure because, of course, it is this low ground, but you're just looking to get any sort of spam and pressure with which you can bomb from cargo or bomb from underpass. You can be high bombing off of this as a soldier. Does this actually have... Oh, that's so weird. Wow. This is probably kind of difficult to bomb off of. Oh, I suppose you could be bombing off of this then. Yeah, that's definitely much better. So that's something you can do. And you can, of course, just be jumping around this corner. What other options do you have? Well, this is actually a speed shot setup. I wonder if I can actually do that or not. Let's try. And I'm actually gonna... do that so I have no clip, because for some reason that's in my class config. That is a speed shot setup you can do. I've never attempted it, but yeah, you can speed shot through Toxic as a soldier. So that's something you can practice for your sacks. I'm not very good at it because I'm not a very good soldier jumper, but that is an option. And then other things you can do, so besides just high bombs off this or whatever, you can be potentially getting players behind underpass if you have the opportunity. Get them into dungeon, and then there's a player behind. Now this isn't super... It's going to need good pressure associated with it because, again, just a player on forklift is going to be able to spot underpass, and a lot of the time It's going to be kind of tough to make your way to dungeon through that, but it can be done. So yeah, those are your primary options for sacking. Oh, I hit a speed shot there. Whatever. So yeah. Now let's talk about... What do we talk about next? Well, let's talk about pushing into 2. So, as far as pop-throughs go, both Cargo and Toxic are, again, good options. Or I suppose not again, because Toxic's not good for Ubering into mid. But into 2, they're both good. Cargo is better for catching players that are leaving bats, of course, because it's closer to bats, versus Toxic is better for catching players that are leaving Shutter, because it is closer to Shutter. So it's going to be easier for a demo to catch players Shutter. I just hit the... There are a lot of hiding spots and like wall bugs and whatnot on this map, so you do have to look out for little corners, just random players hiding. I think there's a big... Oh, there's actually... Oh, there's a corner here, but right, it doesn't have clipping. So this is... I'm failing it, but a lot of wall bugs, a lot of random hiding spots to look out for. Something to keep in mind. I wonder if there's a wall bug here. Oh yeah, there definitely is. So this is like big back cap potential. Just get behind. I mean, of course, I've already mentioned that getting behind and back capping is very powerful option in this map, and part of that includes clearing all sorts of these little corner wall bugs. So anyway, we were talking about popping in a mid. Toxic and Cargo are both decent options for that, and they're both decent options for dry pushes, actually. Yeah, they both have their merits. Underpass is decent for kind of a mix-up dry push, because you can, for starters, threaten to just walk underpass and wrap dungeon, and that's going to be really, really bad if the other team doesn't react and get very passive, because you could just wrap dungeon and catch them in lobby with an Uber. And likewise, if you have done that before, or if you expect the other team to react to it properly, then you can go underpass to threaten that, and then just dry push it instead, now that they're all much more passive. And it's pretty similar door to Toxic, definitely much more narrow, so you might be more vulnerable to a soldier. But since if you throw it in as a mix-up, soldiers might not be playing in positions to adequately bomb it as effectively, can be a nice option. So that's it for pushing 2. Now let's talk about... what do we talk about now? Now we talk about disadd on 2, actually. So disadd on 2, your combo is going to be playing to leave Toxic. Generally, I prefer leaving Toxic just because it gives you decent enough spam and vision on on bats and Shutter, versus leaving Cargo. You really can't see Shutter at all, and you are exclusively delegated to being able to spam bats. You definitely are able to spam bats better from Cargo than Toxic, but still, I definitely prefer leaving Toxic. As far as other classes go, I mean, Soldier, like your Roamer's going to be playing for their bomb, and that could be from any number of places. You can be playing to... Now, I have never played Soldier on this map, so I'm curious what is like high bombable or not. I suspected this would be, but I'm jumping way past it. But yeah, you can be bombing around a corner if they're going bats, or even like playing to spam out Shutter or something with the potential of bomb. Yeah, I don't know. Soldier, I'm sure you have all sorts of options. Soldier players, you are creative people. I'm sure you can figure stuff out, because there are all sorts of places that you can bomb from in order to bomb them as they're trying to get through the door. That being said, shoving behind into last is very potent, because there are a lot of things to clear. Because not only is dungeon something that needs to get cleared, but Shutter is, as well as bats, as well as rollout. So that's 4 different doors. And there's usually only 2 players in the flank, right? And then 1 door for the combo. So oftentimes you're going to... Well, we didn't talk about pushing out of last, did we? No, we talked about the doors to push out of, but we didn't really talk about clearing stuff, because clearing stuff is really, really important. You do want someone clearing rollout, and that's usually... I'll say usually your pocket soldier if your combo is going bats, but essentially you need someone clearing dungeon, someone clearing Shutter, and someone clearing rollout, someone clearing bats. Now your combo is going to push through one of these doors, so you need the other 3 to be accounted for. You can kind of spot multiple doors at once. Like you can spot shutter and dungeon at the same time. So just a flank member can watch this fine, and then someone else can lock down rollout and combo bats, for instance. Or if combo is going shutter, then you have someone, can spot dungeon and bats maybe. And basically you want to make sure that everything is watched because the bat cap potential is pretty severe. And likewise, when it's disad 2, you can potentially shove for a bat cap with your flank. So that could be them just shoving and trying to get a pick and get on last, or it could be, a wall bug hide. That is weird geometry. Why is it like that? Or just a player slipping behind something not watched. Especially if the other team's trying to push out of last down players, then yeah, that's something you should be looking to do. I also didn't talk about underpass as far as pushing out of last goes. Maybe I just failed to talk about pushing out of last. So clearing stuff's important. If you're popping out, yeah, I don't think I did talk about it. If you're popping out, then shutter is a good option. Bats is okay, but not great. Bats, if they're leaving cargo, would be better than shutter, but mostly they're going to be leaving toxic. And underpass is a good one to pop through because you're already so close to toxic, you can potentially catch a lot of players. However, bat cap potential is pretty high if you're popping through underpass, because if like any random player is just playing a door, then suddenly they're just behind, and your flank might be forced into a 3v2 or something, and that's just something to be aware of, and your flank's going to need to play pretty passively and play that correctly. But yeah, those are your doors for pushing out. Now, as far as evens on 2 goes, let's talk about sacking into last. So, yeah, against the sniper, your options for pressuring are going to be much, much worse because, again, you just won't be able to peek the doors very reliably. The sniper can only spot one side at a time, so the other side is going to be much safer to pressure, while the sniper is confirmed on one side. So spotting the sniper, maybe playing the other side can be quite nice. You can snipe into this last, and, some important targets to maybe get early on is on a soldier top left. They are going to have limited options for adequately holding top left while staying out of the sight line. Likewise, you can be peeking into either of these doors. And then just normal sniper things. If you can't get a shot on the med immediately, then you want to get a shot on a person holding the door and then pressure even deeper. Basically working your way deeper and deeper until you get a shot on the med. And yeah. So you don't have to snipe into this last either. You can literally just sack into it. Well, I can't, but you can. And yeah, so you can be double sacking into this last. Something that you actually can do into this last is demo sack, which might be worth trying out. There's multiple props stacked on top of each other here. So you can demo stack, which is viable. We'll talk about the counter sack in a moment. But just normal pressure stuff is important. If you can take space, then that might be nice doing. Spam down a gun and try and sack people for the force when the gun is down. Just normal sacking protocol. So yeah, as far as counter sack goes, assuming you have a demo, then all you really need is a scout on shed. Can be quite nice spotting underpass. Because your demo is going to be in charge of shutter and can help out a lot bats. And it might even be, I don't know if you'd want a soldier in rollout or not. That might be pretty valuable, actually. Like your pocket soldier rollout. This is assuming a double sack where you're down flank scout and roamer. But it is important to watch out for that underpass sack because, rollout and underpass are going to be the main doors they could counter sack through. Because your demo should be able to lock out shutter and bats pretty reliably. Of course, if they pressure both, then you might want like your soldier to help out with bats, for instance. But yeah, now if you sack your demo, then probably pocket can play the same sort of area, and you can maybe even just dedicate a soldier to shutter in that case. You're going to have 2 scouts, so scouts can just be playing to deny a bomb from shed, or, you know, play rollout or something, spotting that with that extra asset. Yeah, that seems sound. Now, I don't know if that's what teams actually do, but again, the experience is kind of limited here, because I don't really, when I sack, I don't really pay attention to, oh, my team's holding this. It's just usually pretty holdable. The pressure out of this last is not fantastic for the other team. I mean, especially like demo sacks in general are really not that bad if it's just a solo demo, because having 5 people in the counter sack, or 5 people alive for the counter sack, is usually pretty tough for the other team to deal with. So anyway, that is counter sack. Let's talk pushing last. And pushing last, basically nothing too special about this point. So top left is kind of a default door, because a lot of the time the enemy combo is going to be holding right side to leave, so bombing left into them can be quite nice. Very rarely do you have time to cross with the Uber, because this last is just so open. So look out for that. If you can cross, that's great. But top left is usually just kind of a default door. Right side kind of functions similarly to Process 5, where you might expect to take some space before using, and, you know, bomb across with it. And then main is almost similar to like a Snakewater lower, where you have the option to commit to either side based on what you see, and you're expecting to maybe take a little space past the fence before using. So yeah, those are kind of your main doors. And then just normal last push stuff still applies, where of course you're going to be looking to end on a side, communicate what side you're ending on. The combo is going to want to either get any picks that they can, get the gun if they can, but most importantly just get positioning. There are going to be some times where the combo is left side and the gun's right side, in which case, you know, your demo is going to want to immediately turn their, like once they're starting to kite through, then they're going to want to turn their attention, take out the gun, because you want that gun to be down well before the commit happens. And your flank is often going to be on the opposite side, ready to get in. You know, a soldier, I suppose, could be playing main for like a potential... That's not really a good high bomb, I suppose. Maybe off the pillar would be better. Yeah, your soldier's going to be playing like main. Or your flank's going to be playing on the opposite side, ready to get in, right? But they don't want to get in unless your combo's actually crossing to collapse on them. And that's usually a good time to focus down heavy, stuff like that. Pressure cap, way more. All the stuff you do when pushing last. So yeah. I don't know if there's anything else particular to Reckoner. The top of the point here does cap, by the way. This is a cap region. So keep that in mind for both playing the point and defending it. But I think that's all I can think of for Reckoner. So yeah, very introductory, but good primer just to get people in the right positions with the right ideas, I suppose. And last thing, rule, no complaining, okay? Everyone loves to complain about the new maps. I do have the opinion that players with strong fundamentals thrive much more on the new maps than players who don't, just because, you know, if you know how to play demo, or you know how to play roamer, or you know how to play pocket scout, or any of the roles, if you understand what your role is supposed to do at a basic fundamental level, then it's much, much easier to apply that map by map and just kind of adapt to the map pretty quickly. But of course, you know, the actual specifics and niches of the map only apply with experience, or you only gain those with experience. So, you know, practice the map, get familiar with it, and yeah. So hopefully that was a useful tool for those of you who are playing in this next season of RGL. But yeah, that's all I have. So catch you guys next time.